Welcome back, all. Throughout this episode, I'm going to be explaining why I've been gone for so long. The reason I've been gone is because I've been writing a book called Neurodiversity, The Missing Link to the Joy of Life. I'd just like to tell you what this book is about. Inside of it, I show a big trail of historical events which have gone on during the last 2 centuries, which show what kind of direction we are going in. And we've made lots of scientific discoveries, more medical advancements, a rise in technology. So if we are improving in health, how is it that health worldwide is deteriorating if we're making so much progress? So I decided to go through this question and explore it. And what we come to find is it all comes down to this absurd concept that there's any such thing as a normal person. It's plain illogical, the idea of a normal person. Throughout it, I explain of how even if you are disabled, you can still enjoy life. You don't require all these different things and possessions and abilities. You just have to acknowledge that you don't need to be able to do all of them. You can just do some, and you can make joy out of that which you've got. Such as talk about things like applied behaviour analysis, quality of life, and opens down the medical system of how Francis Galton's work of applying statistics to humans has actually caused us some great problems. Of how where the world is going, it's increasing the likelihood of cardiovascular diseases. So why are all these different kinds of diseases rising? And later on in the book, I apply the scientist logic towards their own claims. When they've created this disabled versus abled people, I apply their logic towards themselves and show that most of what they're trying to purge from the world is actually an ongoing of the racist eugenics movement, where they're trying to purge disabled people from the world. The science community is still full of bigotry, and medical science has become more of a field of discrimination than it has for actually helping people. Like when we look at eugenics, you come to find it's not about healing, it's not about helping people, it's about terminating them. So why terminate? And there's great advances in biotechnology, into reproductive technology, and it's all for the sake of money. People just want your money, all these scientists. There seems to be a big crossroads among them. There's some scientists who do want to have disabled people in the world, but there's just as many who actually go claiming the rights of disabled people should not be protected. There's someone called Peter Sinner who actually wants to repeat the Nazi Holocaust altogether, where members of society can go around and just murder disabled people. On my research, I looked at surveys, and there was a study where they gathered lots of disabled people with things like cystic fibrosis, dyslexia, autism, and all other kinds of neurodivergent disabilities, and things like diseases like sickle cell anemia. They gathered all these people, and they then questioned and asked them, what do you think of your quality of life? And there's no relationship whatsoever on quality of life and disability, because 2 people with the same disability, disease, disorder, etc., some of them said they've got a great quality of life, some of them said they don't. So can we really give an objective definition of what a disabled body even looks like? Because we've got psychiatric disorders, genetic disorders, neurodevelopmental disorders, mental disorders, all these different kinds of disorders. but it's the only thing that we've all got in common. There's just one thing we've all got in common: social deviation. Anyone who deviates from a social norm is automatically pathologized. Such as I point out, when we look back to the 20th century, everyone saying that homosexuality is a mental illness, that it's a psychiatric disorder. Everyone saying that females in general are physically and intellectually inferior compared to men. Everyone saying that black people can never be as smart as white people. And everyone saying left-handed people who use the left hand more than the right, have a pathological disorder. Around the time of the Civil War in America, anyone who protested against enslavement was said to have a medical disorder called drapetomania. And now, when we look at all of this going on, all these factors, we're going to say homosexuality, a deviation from the social norm. We come to find left-handedness, a deviation from the social norm. Protesting against slavery at that time, a deviation from the social norm. You just find that one after another, disorder after disorder, is all deviation from social norms. So anyone who does not fit into the social norm is automatically pathologized. Over medicalization, so they can profiteer on your needs, on your difficulties. One of the questions I like to bring up inside this book I've written is I point out we've got an excessive amount of money being spent on disabled people, saying to cure them. No, we've got to relieve the suffering of disabled people. But I've got a problem with that. What about the suffering that non-disabled people go through? All the financially disadvantaged, all those who get mental illnesses because of what they've been put through in life. But why don't we care about the suffering that the majority go through? Why must we only do it to the minorities? Because you can't profiteer on the majority. Because if it's the majority, the big wide range of them, but they need these in order to be the workers, to actually do the work, in order to be able to profiteer. So the capitalists get the money from you. The disabled people are the ones who are deprived of their equal rights and their humanity. And the rest of you in the middle, the majority, you are just being used by medical scientists, by industries. And even point out, like, there was a place called Swiss Medica, still ongoing today. It came to the UK and charged parents £4,000 to have the children cured from autism, but it did nothing. So it was more like they were stealing from the parents by telling lies. So I found that they'll just go dangling lots of little promises to parents, frightening parents, making big statements that seem terrifying to make the parents purchase the product. So we see that as our world has gotten more and more capitalistic, more sociological disorders have been designed, then more people profiteer. Point out that in psychiatry, it all begins out in the society. The way medicine works is psychiatry works in the opposite direction. What psychiatry would do is it will look for a drug that will respond to a bodily function. So if there's some kind of function in the body, and then because of that functioning, this drug responds to that. There's some kind of reaction between them both. Then due to this reaction, they go claim that this biological component we've seen a response from, they claim it's a disorder, so we can solve a drug. But concerning the rest of medicine, we actually identify the biological problem first, and then we make a drug to help with that problem. But in the other way, in psychiatry, they design a problem, design it, and then they make the drug for it. So there's actually nothing wrong with the individual to begin with. Like, there's nothing wrong with being homosexual. There's nothing wrong with being left-handed. There's nothing wrong with protesting against slavery. There's nothing biological to them. So while they were trying to make drugs and so on, about all that, shows like it was just about the money. So if you'd like to know how to enjoy life and know how not to go getting robbed and everything, I would recommend you to try reading this book, if you will. It's available on Amazon, called Neurodiversity, a missing link to the joy of life, because there's a little link, there's something there which the science community has removed. And by the science community removing it, it's destroying everyone's joy. All over this absurd concept of normal. Just allow me to show you how absurd it is when I apply their logic to it. I often ask them what is normal, then I can never actually give an answer altogether of what's normal. I then ask them, is it normal to be different? Then we go saying, yeah, it's normal to be different. I'd say, well, how are we abnormal then? Those of us disabled with these genetic abnormalities, these abnormalities are different. So if it's normal to be different, how are we not normal? Those who are disabled. So in order to be the same, that's abnormally normal. So you were abnormally normal, or you were normally abnormal. You just flip it on its head and it falls over. Logic doesn't work whatsoever at all. And I talk a bit more in my book about the biotechnology that we're seeing in the world today, and of how people are wanting to purge the gene pool of so-called genetic disorders. But there's a great problem with that. List out so many inside the book, but I'll show you just one of them that will affect the entire world. It won't just affect an individual. If parents choose to go doing genetic engineering, taking out of the gene pool anyone that tests positive for a disability, the future generation will be smart enough to figure out, my parents only allowed me to be born because I did not test positive for a disability. So do my parents actually love me? Or do they only love me because I'm not disabled? Not all disabilities are hereditary, which will leave them thinking, since all parents hate disabled people, since they don't want disabled people in the world, what if I become disabled? Will my parents still love me? And with all this genetic programming, they might think to themselves, this achievement I've made, was it actually I who achieved it? Or was it because of my parents dictating my genes? Was it because of my parents' selection and conditional acceptance, conditional love? You'll only be accepted if you fit a certain set of boxes. And then there's just so many problems to it. And another one, for example, is only the wealthy will be able to afford the genetic engineering, the 21st century eugenics. But those who are not so wealthy, those who are in the lower socioeconomic class, they won't be able to afford it. So if we genetically engineer and edit the wealthier, we'll become less genetically related. So like where we used to be part of the ape family, more genetically identical to apes, we drifted apart a bit, became less genetically related. So if you edify the wealthy more, we become less genetically related. And just like we now say that monkeys, apes are a separate species to us, we'll go saying that the poor are a separate species to the wealthy. And how is the wealthy going to look at the poor? The poor are already stigmatized and stereotyped on the mass media as failures, for example. And then that deprives them from getting a job, which makes them even lower in income, more likely to suffer poverty, more likely to suffer addiction. So what I argue within my book is this constant rise of disorders, this constant rise of health problems has less to do with human biology and has more to do with socio-economic factors. It's got more to do with the economy. I'm sure your own experience can be a witness to you, but your economy is demanding too much from you. Demanding you to do more hours at work than you used to, of all age groups, kids more hours at school, more work. It's just work, 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 but you've got no free time to have a life. So I argue in my book that we've got to stop going by this genetic fundamentalism that everything's due to genetics. And we've actually got to address what's wrong with society. So I'll just point out another problem of how it's going to cause more poverty. Here in the United Kingdom, where we've got the Department of Work and Pensions that does benefits, people unfit for work go on benefits. And what we seem to find is, as those on benefits go up, as that increases, the tax rates increase with it. So those who have full-time jobs, you get higher tax rates by designing new disorders. So in the neurodiversity movement, where the neurodiversity activists are pointing out, change the economy, change the culture, let's address that. Stop focusing so much on genetics, on eugenics, and let's actually correct the problems in our society, such as if we adapt the work environment, more disabled people will be able to work, but there'll be fewer people on benefits. Fewer people on benefits, the less taxes are required. So that will actually increase everyone's finances. And I just point out of how the neurodiversity movement is beneficial for everyone. It's not just beneficial for neurodivergent people. What you'll come to find is, for example, if we imagine someone who's deaf for a moment, someone who can't hear, on the television, you could have the subtitles on. Then that could help people learn to spell. It could help them learn more language. So that could even be educational. Say the ramp analogy for letting wheelchair users get into buildings and so on, and elevators. We could even say if someone's pushing a pram, so no disability whatsoever, the ramps also help parents who have children in prams. So when we make the relevant adjustments to the environment, it doesn't just benefit the disabled people, it benefits those who are not disabled as well. And by neurodivergent people thinking so differently, if we can bring into our culture neurodivergent people, we've got more ways of thinking, more abilities, and we've got better problem solving to solve problems which need to be addressed, and our economy becomes more productive, not less productive. So we'll actually be able to have a better society, better lives with one another, and by learning about what's missing, the missing link from medicine and psychiatry, what they withhold from people, but that'll help you come to a joyful, fulfilling, healthy life, and where you won't go getting all these health disorders. Just to close, I'll ask everyone a final question. According to the World Health Organization, the leading cause of death is heart diseases. So if a normal lifestyle results in things like cancer and heart diseases, isn't that suggesting to us that there's something unhealthy about a normal life? If the consequence of living a normal life is develop things like cancer and heart diseases, diabetes, obesity, if that's the normal outcome, the outcome of a normal life, doesn't that say there's something wrong about a normal life? I know some people who don't live by a normal life and they're not disabled either. Such as this one person I know, and is over 100 years old now. He doesn't have any form of cancer, no health problems whatsoever. But he's over 100 years old, but he did not live a normal life. He didn't live the normal way. So there's so much danger coming from biotechnology that has been overlooked and ignored by the scientists themselves, bioethicists. It's getting said by so many that disabled people's rights don't deserve to be protected. They don't deserve to be protected from discrimination, stigmatization, dehumanization. We should be left dehumanized. So I would like you all to know that the eugenics movement is not over. It's still ongoing. If you talk with an eugenicist, someone with eugenic thinking, they'll say to you something like, oh, we're only doing it for medical reasons, they'll say. But just point out to them, how has being a woman, how has being a girl a medical problem? Because they already do sex selection. More girls get aborted than do boys. But not just a little, but greatly proportionally. In a great proportion, more girls get aborted than do boys. So they are already doing sex selection in eugenics. They've legalized assisted suicide in some countries. They actually allow people to abort fetus just because the fetus will be disabled altogether. So how exactly is this treating humanity equally? The society says we want equality and inclusiveness. So how is that equality? How is that equal? Claim that disabled rights should not be protected. Claim that disabled people are not even worthy of life. Wanting to restart the Nazi Holocaust here in the 21st century with biotechnology. So our society at the minute is rather hypocritical. Oh no, we value everyone equally, but disabled people are clearly not being valued by so many scientists. So the neurodiversity movement is our only chance, our only hope of purging the science community from all of its bigotry. It's bigotry against women, it's bigotry against races, it's bigotry against anyone who deviates from a social norm. And we should address the economy and the socio-economics so that people who are suffering mental health issues are less likely to actually get mental health issues, addiction, depression, and so you found that the constant rise is most of socio-economics and people lusting after power and control. And that the biotechnology, if they do what they want to do, purge the world of disabled people, that could actually result in our extinction. I actually include something inside my book on these biotechnologists that illustrates their bigotry against disabled people. There's someone called George Church inside of it who I quote. He's very keen on the extinction of the woolly mammoth. So he wants the mammoth to be brought back into existence, but at the same time, he's very keen on don't let disabled people be born. So we can let mammoths come into the wild, but not disabled people. That shows that the scientists value wildlife more than they value disabled humans. So clearly, the science community still dehumanizes disabled people. So if you become disabled in the future, make sure you're prepared for dehumanization. They're going to dehumanize you. So unless we fight against the eugenics movement ongoing, to have these biotechnologists and the eugenicists to stop it. And if you read from the book, you'll see great evidence of all the abuse and harm they have done. And this harm just might be done to you in the future. If you deviate from the social norm some point in the future, you'll be pathologized and they won't want you in the wild. You'll be so unwanted. Again, just to finish, the title of the book is Neurodiversity, a missing link to the joy of life. It's available on Amazon, and I'll just read the blurb to you. I quote, neurodiversity, the right thing for the right time. The neurodiversity movement is the only way of combating the ableist eugenics movement in the 21st century. Advancements in biotechnology and reproductive technology are threatening to purge the world of disabled people. It is justified by genetic fundamentalism. There is something else behind the constant rise of health disorders, but while remaining unaddressed. In this book, we see what is corrupting our culture's health and what dangers the eugenics movement poses by looking through the history of the last 2 centuries and the direction we are moving in. We can see how neurodiversity holds a secret withheld by psychiatry that opens the gates to heaven on earth. End of quote. And the goal by Francis Galton, Carl Pearson, and Ronald Fisher, those who started the eugenics movement, their goal was to create heaven on earth. And neurodiversity is the way of creating a heavenly life, heaven on earth for you. So if you would like to, you can have a read and see of how the socioeconomics are having a negative impact on your life, of how they are increasing the likelihood of developing cancer and other diseases. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. If you liked this content, please may subscribe to my channel. Thank you.